The moment she was born, the room went quiet, not from peace, but from hesitation. The doctors didn't know what to say. The nurses avoided eye contact, and her parents, they held her gently, already bracing for a future filled with apologies. Because Maya was born without legs, no feet, no knees, no reason, they said, to dream of movement. The specialists gave her a list of can'ts. Can't walk, can't climb, definitely can't run. They didn't mean to be cruel. They were just reading from the script the world gives to anyone born different. But what they didn't see, what no x-ray or prognosis could capture, was the spark behind her eyes. Because Maya wasn't asking for legs. She was asking for a lane, and if they wouldn't give her one, she'd build her own. No one expected her to walk. She learned to fly. And when the races began, she didn't just keep up, she outran everyone. Maya came into the world quietly. No cry, no panic, just a stillness that filled the delivery room like a question no one wanted to answer. Her parents noticed before anyone said a word, the absence of tiny kicks, the way the blanket lay flat below her waist. They held her tighter as if their love could will her into something the world would call whole. The doctors were gentle but clinical. She was born with congenital amelia, a rare condition. No femurs, no fibulas, no feet. Just smooth skin where legs should have formed. The specialists offered pamphlets, spoke in statistics, predicted a life of dependence, a wheelchair by age 3, assistance for almost everything. But her mother, she didn't look at her daughter and see limits. She saw a spark. By the time Maya was 1, she was already defying gravity. She taught herself to roll across the living room carpet with the urgency of someone late to a meeting. When other toddlers learned to stand, Maya learned to balance on her hips and palms, like a gymnast upside down and grinning. She didn't cry when she fell. She laughed, laughed so hard that her father once said, "She doesn't know she's supposed to be sad." And she didn't, because no one told her she couldn't do what other kids could. So she tried everything. She scooted through playground tunnels faster than kids with legs could run around them, climbed furniture like it was a jungle gym, learned to go up the stairs backwards using her arms. The first time her parents took her to the park, other kids stopped and stared. Some asked questions, others pointed, but Maya didn't shrink. She dragged herself up the slide by her elbows, turned around at the top, and launched herself down like she was flying. When she hit the ground, she landed hard, scraped her elbow, grinned, climbed right back up. She wasn't looking for pity, she was looking for speed. By the time she was 6, she had built fingerless gloves out of cut-up gym socks to protect her hands while she raced other kids on the blacktop. She never won at first, but she was always smiling, because she was never running for them, she was running for herself. Other parents watched with a strange mix of awe and discomfort. They whispered things like, "She's so brave," as if existing in her body was a performance. But for Maya, it wasn't bravery, it was just her life. And every time she moved, she wasn't trying to be inspirational. She was trying to move. What no one realized yet was that this little girl, born without legs, was already racing toward something bigger. Not the finish line, but freedom. It happened on a rainy Tuesday. Maya was 8, home from school with a sore throat, curled up on the couch beneath a mountain of blankets. The TV was on in the background, just noise to her until it wasn't. A track meet flickered onto the screen. Athletes exploding off starting blocks, crowds roaring, legs moving like lightning. One girl crossed the finish line and collapsed into her coach's arms, sobbing with joy. Maya sat up, eyes wide, body still. Something inside her clicked. "I want to do that," she signed to her mom. Her mother smiled out of love. But there was something else behind her eyes, something Maya wasn't old enough to name yet. A pause, a hesitation wrapped in hope and fear, because the world hadn't made space for that kind of dream, not for girls like Maya. "I want to race," she repeated, firmer this time. "I want to feel that." Her mom gently explained how most racing programs weren't built for someone without legs. That equipment didn't really exist, that competitions had categories, and hers didn't have one yet. But Maya just stared at the screen, eyes burning. She wasn't discouraged, she was daring. That night she pulled out crayons and paper, started sketching something that looked like a racing wheelchair, but smaller, lighter, faster. The next day, she showed it to her uncle, a retired mechanic. He studied the drawing, scratched his head, and said, "Well, I've never built a rocket on wheels, but I guess we're about to try." And that was it, the moment her life turned, not with applause, not with a medal, but with a decision. If the world didn't have a lane for her, she'd build her own. It started in a cluttered garage that smelled like engine grease and old dreams. Her uncle worked for weeks, piecing together her first racing frame. The parts came from everywhere: a discarded wheelchair, salvaged back tires, old go-kart bearings. When it was done, it didn't look like much. But to Maya, it looked like freedom on 3 wheels. She named it Lightning, not because it was fast yet, but because she would make it so. They wheeled it out to the local basketball court, chalked a makeshift starting line, and she took her position. No crowd, no starter gun, just her. She pushed. Slow at first, jerky, off balance. The frame wobbled like a baby deer finding its legs, but Maya didn't stop. Every day after school, she trained: parking lots, paved trails, gym floors, even the long hallways of her school after hours, when the janitor let her in because he believed in her more than the rule book did. She learned how to corner by listening to the sound of rubber against concrete. She adjusted her gloves with duct tape and determination. She watched every video of Paralympic racing she could find, studying posture, push angle, gear ratio. She wasn't just training her body, she was training her mind. Her first local race was at a community fun run. They let her enter unofficially, said it would be cute to let her try. She showed up in her helmet, goggles, and a DIY jersey that said, "Try to catch me." The other kids laughed, not meanly, just out of surprise. They didn't see a competitor, they saw a story, until the whistle blew. Maya launched forward with everything she had. The wind slapped her face, her arms burned, but her eyes locked on the finish line. She didn't win. Not that day, but she didn't come in last either. And when she rolled past the finish, something strange happened. The crowd clapped, but not out of pity, out of respect. That night, the race organizer pulled her mom aside, said if she keeps training like that, she could go far. So she did. She trained harder, longer. She joined adaptive sports leagues, applied for scholarships, upgraded her frame piece by piece. Her muscles grew. Her technique sharpened. Her times dropped. What once looked like a child playing pretend now looked like an athlete in motion. And Maya, the girl born without legs, was finally being seen for what she always was: unstoppable. For every race she finished, there were days she wanted to quit. Days when her arms ached so badly she couldn't lift a fork. Days when her racing gloves tore open again mid-run, leaving her palms bloodied and raw. Days when her body obeyed, but her spirit wavered. She faced more than physical exhaustion. There were whispers behind clipboards, officials debating whether to place her in an exhibition category, as if her effort wasn't real enough. She overheard them once. I mean, come on, she's got no legs. This is inspiring, but is it fair? That night, she didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, fists clenched, wondering if maybe they were right. Not because she believed them, but because being told you're less over and over starts to chip away at the strongest parts of you. Her mom found her in the garage the next morning, sitting beside her racing frame, head down, silent. You don't have to prove anything to them, her mom said, but Maya looked up and whispered, I'm not trying to prove something to them. I'm trying to prove something to me. So she pushed harder, trained smarter, learned to fall forward, not just back. She got a new coach, someone who didn't ask what she lacked, but who asked, what else do you need to fly? They revised her starts, refined her grip, rebuilt her frame from aluminum and carbon fiber, light as air and sharp as a blade. By the time she reached the National Adaptive Trials, no one doubted why she was there. She lined up beside athletes with prosthetic blades, others in chairs, some with visible differences, others with invisible ones. The track shimmered in the heat. The announcer read her name. Some in the crowd stood, recognizing her from videos and local news. But Maya didn't look at them. She looked ahead. When the starter pistol fired, she launched like lightning. Every push, a symphony of strength and control. Every second, a battle between gravity and will. At the halfway point, she was even. By the final turn, she was ahead. And in the last 50 meters, she flew. Not because she wanted the medal, but because this was the moment she'd built her entire life for. She crossed the finish line, arms raised, lungs heaving, tears already forming. The crowd erupted, officials stood, her coach wept. And Maya, she sat there, heart pounding, hands blistered, body exhausted, but finally completely seen. She didn't just win a race, she redefined one. Not because she had something to prove, but because she never accepted the race the world tried to put her in. She made her own, and she won it. After Maya's race at Nationals, everything changed. Not just for her, but for every kid who'd ever been told they needed legs to run. The footage of her crossing the finish line, arms raised, wheels spinning, joy pouring from her face, went viral in less than 24 hours. News outlets picked it up. Sports networks ran features. And suddenly, people who had never heard the words adaptive racing were learning them because of her. But Maya didn't stop at headlines. She never cared about attention. She cared about access. Because while the world was applauding her story, she was already asking a bigger question. Why did I have to fight so hard to get here? She teamed up with engineers to develop lighter, more affordable racing frames for children with limb differences. Equipment that didn't exist when she was growing up. She tested every prototype herself, gave feedback not just as an athlete, but as a kid who once duct taped her dreams together in a garage. Then she launched a nonprofit, Wheels Within Reach, a small organization with one bold mission: to make sure no child was kept off the track because of what they were born without. The nonprofit raised money for equipment, training, and travel grants. They started outreach programs in schools and hospitals. They hosted inclusive races, where no one was categorized by what they lacked, but celebrated for how they showed up. Maya also began speaking reluctantly at first, but she realized the power in being seen. She spoke to kids with limb differences who never knew racing was an option. She spoke to coaches who admitted they'd never thought to make their teams accessible. She spoke to parents, wide-eyed and weary, who finally saw hope reflected back at them. And always she told the same truth. I was never missing anything. I just needed the world to stop assuming I was. One day, she met a little girl named Suri, 7 years old, born without legs, just like Maya, quiet, shy, but curious. Maya let her test drive one of the new frames. At first, Suri hesitated. Then she pushed, wobbled, laughed, and looked up at Maya and said, "I didn't know I could go this fast." Maya knelt down smiling. "You haven't even started yet." That moment became a mural in the Wheels Within Reach headquarters, a painting of two girls, one older, one younger, on racing frames under a sky that said, "Speed isn't measured in steps." And that's what Maya gave the world, not just a faster way forward, but a wider one, a future where no one's story starts with what they don't have, but with everything they're about to become. Maya doesn't race for medals anymore, not often. Her walls are lined with them, sure, trophies, photos, framed news articles, but the real victories, they're not made of gold or glass. They're the handwritten letters from kids who say, "I saw you, and now I see myself differently." They're the photos of little hands gripping racing gloves, smiling with the same wide eyes Maya once had in her garage. They're the coaches who now ask, "What can we do to make room?" Not, "Can she keep up?" She thinks back often to that day on the couch, the rainy Tuesday, the race on TV, the girl crossing the finish line with her arms raised high. At the time, Maya didn't know why it hit her so hard. She just knew that. That's what freedom looks like. Now, when people ask her if she wishes she'd been born different, with legs, with normalcy, with ease, she smiles gently, shakes her head. "No," she says, "because legs wouldn't have made me fast. Belief did, and the willingness to keep going when the world said, 'Stop.'" She knows now that she was never chasing speed. She was chasing space, the freedom to define herself, to create her own rhythm, to live without apology. And in doing that, she didn't just run her own race. She opened a track for others. Because real power isn't just outrunning what holds you back. It's looking back once you've crossed the finish line and building a path for someone else to start. The stadium was smaller than the ones Maya used to race in, just a high school field, a handful of folding chairs, and a track that curved gently beneath a soft spring sky. No big lights, no media vans, just the steady buzz of nervous energy and the squeak of wheels against asphalt. Maya sat near the finish line, tucked behind a rope barrier, her hat pulled low, a quiet smile playing on her lips. On the track, a new generation of racers lined up, among them Suri, now 12, helmet snug, elbows flexed, a determined glint in her eye that Maya recognized instantly. The starter raised his hand. The crowd hushed, and then, bang, they were off. Suri's frame glided with precision, her arms driving hard, each push cleaner than the last, each second faster than the one before. Maya didn't cheer. She didn't need to. She watched in silence, the kind of silence that only comes when you're witnessing something sacred. Suri crossed the finish line third, then turned breathless, searching the crowd. She spotted Maya and sprint rolled toward her, didn't say a word, just crashed into her arms. Maya held her tightly, felt the pulse pounding through her young chest. You flew, she whispered. Suri pulled back, beaming. I almost beat them. You will, Maya smiled. I already knew that the moment you took off. As they sat there, the sun dipping low behind the bleachers, Maya reached into her bag and pulled out a small pin. It was shaped like a flame, delicate, polished silver, the same one her coach once gave her after her first win. She pinned it to Suri's jersey. This is yours now, she said. Keep going, and when you're ready, pass it on. Suri nodded, eyes wide, a quiet promise exchanged between generations. And as Maya watched her wheel away, laughing with her teammates under the golden light, she knew this wasn't the end of her story, it was the beginning of someone else's. Because legacies aren't left behind, they're carried forward, on wheels, on wings, on the courage to race toward a finish line no one believed you'd ever see. If Maya's story moved you, don't scroll past it. Share it with someone who's been told their dream doesn't fit the mold, someone fighting to be seen, someone building their own lane when none existed. Tag a friend who runs their race differently. Comment with the moment you stop letting limitations define you. And if you believe speed isn't measured in steps, but in strength, in vision, in how far we carry each other, then subscribe. Because here we tell stories that don't just inspire, they redefine what's possible.